Welcome back to Leaders Live. I'm Charlie Stevens, your host. We are excited to be back after a 2-week layover. We are down here at the World Trade Center site to meet with a leading founder, Gil Eyal, CEO, founder of HYPR, the world's leading influencer marketing platform. We're going to 7 World Trade, right over my shoulder, the 46th floor. Let's go. Check out these views on the 46th floor. Hudson River, you got Hudson Yards complex up there, 34th Street, Midtown Manhattan. You got the Jenga building, not bad over here. Welcome back to Leaders Live. I'm Charlie Stevens, your host. If you want to learn anything about digital marketing, influencer marketing, you are in the right place. I am here with Gil Eyal, founder and leader of the world's leading influencer marketing platform. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm excited. We're going to have some fun today. Nadal's going to start the countdown clock and let some people load up. We got some tunes. And please share, tag some people. So now we got a minute 30 just to hang out and look cool. I like to talk about my suit a lot. Sometimes I do this because my wife says it looks professional.
So they're seeing this right now.
Yes, but there's a little bit of a jingle playing right now. It's my buddy Ikram who started Venmo. He's got a band right now, and Ikram and the Immigrants Groove. I like to call it the Infinite Groove.
That's awesome.
So we've used that as the intro and the outro.
You started Venmo?
Yes. Not bad, right?
Not bad at all.
Yeah. He's a cool guy. So he's working on a new app called Ents right now, which is like an audio Twitter of sorts. Could be a
Yeah, it's one area that hasn't gotten some messages in.
Right. It's cool. I'll show it to you later. It's ENS. But yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's 37. So right now, show partner GTIF comes up, which is venture capital firm out of Texas. They deal with esports, some influencers in esports. FaZe Clan, I don't know if you heard of them. They're some big esports team. I say some, but I think they're like the Yankees of esports.
Wow.
Yeah. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's on the team now, I guess. Yeah. So they're getting some big time guys.
That's the only one from esports that didn't work out.
Right.
Exactly.
We're back. Welcome back to Leaders Live. Charlie Stevens, your host. Appreciate you guys logging on. Please share and comment and ask some questions for Gil as we get going. But just to give you a little background, why we do the show, we talk with industry leaders, understand how they operate, and engage with the LinkedIn community. People ask me, why am I doing this? I'm a real estate guy. I could come in, talk to you about what's going on in the World Trade. So I can tell you what's going on at 7 World Trade right now. The 36 floors available, whatever it may be, 1 World Trade, Condé Nast, The Zone just went in there. It's a lot of information. Spotify's at 4 World Trade, but we're not going to do that. Sorry, just went on a little tangent.
Our old office.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We were in 4.
So why are we doing this? Relationships matter. Trying to understand how this industry leader operates, how you run your business, how you've grown, and once we understand kind of your business, and I say we as a collective people on LinkedIn, we could help you connect with other business leaders, and I think that's what really makes sense. That's what the growth and the connections and the networking is the most important part of this, right? So again, that's the authentic part of this, and we're trying to have fun. We want to have fun here. We're gonna have a fun show, 20-minute show. Mm-hmm. We might have a special guest appear at some point. We don't know yet. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, fingers crossed. But also Q&A portion. So start your comments now for Gil, digital marketing, influencer marketing. Let's get started. Gil is the founder, CEO of the world's leading influencer marketing automation platform, HYPR. HYPR is crushing it right now. Inc. 500 list, 19th fastest growing company in New York City. Award after award after award. But let's start back where let's bring it back a little bit, right? Your marketing background was at Northwestern, Kellogg, You were at a gaming company, Playdom, but kind of give us a little bit of background of where this marketing started.
Sure, yeah. So I was a lawyer, confession, reformed, and I didn't love it. I spent a few years working as a lawyer, and I made this crazy decision to shift into marketing. I got an MBA at Kellogg and started really being enamored by the opportunities that marketing presented from the way that they just got me excited and the things that I could do with them. And during that MBA program, I got lucky. I got an internship with a company called Playdom, which fortunately just blew up right when I was there. I like to say because of me, but really not because of me. There's 599 other people who were there. It really blew up, and what Playdom did was it developed games on MySpace and Facebook. It was the biggest developer on MySpace, one of the biggest developers on Facebook, at a time where people didn't have smartphones. People didn't have other channels to play on, and what I learned very quickly was that it wasn't a gaming company. It wasn't about the games that we developed. It was about being able to market better than others, being able to acquire customers for a cheaper price, being able to extract more value from each customer. And that had to do with the very basic marketing fundamentals that we were studying at business school. How do you target the right audience? How do you get the right message across? And I got really, really excited about that. Didn't have the opportunity to stay along with the company because it got acquired by Disney for a lot of money very quickly. And I ended up joining this startup that had similar needs. It was called Mobley Media.
Mobley Media, yes.
It was gained some notoriety mainly because of the idea that when we were finally moving from traditional social networks to mobile, we were trying to market this app in the same way that we were marketing the games on Playdom, and it wasn't working as well. The platforms had changed. And we decided that it's time to try to work with celebrities. Can we get celebrities to use our platform in a way that's going to get their audience to come? They have a big audience.
Yeah.
They're influential. And when we, what started out as an idea quickly blew up when Leonardo DiCaprio was somehow exposed to our app, said, I like this, I'm going to invest.
Right. Good friend of mine.
Good friend. Oh, you guys hang out a lot?
Yeah. A lot.
Met him like twice. And we ended up doing a deal where he was part of our original investment team, but he also brought in a lot of other celebrities. And I ended up moving away from just doing digital marketing to doing celebrity endorsements, and eventually going lower and lower into smaller, influential people online, and reaching this idea that, wait a second, every decision I make is influenced by somebody. If we could really figure out who influences who online, there's a lot we could do with that.
Right.
So that's where the idea for HYPR was born.
Valuable information. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's valuable information because at the end of the day, we all make our decisions based on somebody that we trust. You decide which restaurant to go to over the weekend. You decide which vacation spot to go to. You decide where to work. If decide which movies to see. There's somebody in your life, and each one of those, and it doesn't have to be the same person, but each one of those decisions is very, very influential. And with social networks becoming so powerful and such a big part of everybody's life, I recognize that we could identify who of the millions of people on these social networks, who are the ones who are influential within a specific context. And that's where HYPR was born. Mobile ended up losing the market to this small company called Instagram.
Right.
Unfortunately. But,
I've heard of them.
Yeah. You and DiCaprio. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
that's where we talk.
Right. DM each other. And I started HYPR with this idea that I think marketers would want to reach their audience through other channels in traditional digital marketing.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, we saw things like ad blockers become really popular.
Yeah.
And we saw that people were just blind to advertising. Like, I'll ask all our viewers right now, how many of you have been on the internet? Everybody, because you're on it right now. Have you seen an ad today? And I'll answer honestly in the chat. Do you remember what it was for? And very few people remember. Even when I asked that question in a room filled with digital media buyers, and I asked them, do you remember which ad you recently saw? They don't remember. Mm-hmm. Or they don't remember the brand. If they do remember, it's because they're like, that's weird. How did they know that I'm looking for cream against balding? How did the advertiser know all my private stuff? That's when people remember. And that's an uncomfortable environment for advertisers and for people who are being advertised to. The world of influencers turned out to be an amazing environment because you follow these people because you trust them.
Yeah.
They're not advertising to you. If they recommend something, it's because they genuinely think that thing is valuable. And that's where we found this niche that was growing really, really fast. It's still
Right.
very young,
Right.
but is becoming really, really, really meaningful. And unlike celebrity endorsements, is really focused on data and understanding who is their audience, who's influential within this context. I'm trying to sell a book about poker.
Yeah.
Is Justin Bieber going to sell that book? Probably not. But there are a lot of people online that, if you care about poker, you listen to every word they say.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the true influencer of it, right?
Yeah,
How'd you?
that's exactly it. Not the famous,
Yeah.
but the influential.
Right. I mean, an influencer could be a mom in a group in the town talking about mom things, or like the Massapequa moms. Big shout out to that. I mean, there's influencers in that community too.
Everywhere, in a church, in a school environment. Think about school. You know, who were the kids who decided which parties to go to the weekend?
Right.
College, who decided which bars were the bars to go to? They're, within a specific context, they become the thought leader.
Right.
And we see it in every. I challenge you to think of any aspect in your life where there aren't people like that.
How did you come up with the name HYPR?
Well, we had a really embarrassing name, which I refused to say. And one of the first VCs, I'm going to shout this out to this wonderful Tamar Betzalel, who was one of the first VCs we met. She said to me, "Look, I really want to invest, but I'm not investing in something that's called dollar social. It was social with a dollar sign." And she said, come back with a new name." And so I posted on Facebook. I was like, "Look, you know, people don't like this name. I think it's awesome, but." There was an overwhelming agreement that this was a terrible name, and then people started saying, well, what do influencers do? They hype up stuff, and suddenly people threw out different names, and one of them was HYPR, and it was with an E, but of course that was taken. And then
Not cool enough. Take the E out.
Yeah,
I like that.
Come on, this is startup world.
Yeah.
So somebody came up, why don't you just do it without the E? And there was like a zillion responses, and I was like, okay, you know, it's like, the people have spoken,
Right,
and then everybody I
right.
told it to was like, that's a pretty cool name, that's a pretty cool name, and it's been with us ever since.
So let's talk about the product and the services that you have. I did a little walkthrough demo yesterday. I thought it was really cool. The value I see. Well, let's talk about what the product and services are. I mean, marketers have a budget, Fortune 500 companies you're dealing with that they're probably watching right now. What do I do with that? Do I get an influencer to market my product? What do I do? How do I navigate that? And I think that's where HYPR comes in. So
our goal is to really make all the things that marketers hate doing easy and automatic. Marketers love creating content. They love understanding which audience they should be targeting.
Yeah.
What they don't like doing is sitting and through piles of names and trying to figure out which one is the right name for them and which one they should be talking to. What HYPR does is allows them to come in and search based on things like which conversations are happening right now? What do people really care about online? I apologize, it's my daughter laughing in the back because I am hilarious. And I'm very influential in her life. So they want to know, who are the people that are at the center of the conversations that are relevant to the product that I am trying to market? Who reaches my audience?
Yeah.
Who leads the conversations that talk about this specific subject? And what we provide them is a tool that's very sophisticated. It tracks billions of social accounts regularly to understand which conversations are happening and identifies the people that are really at the center. Around that, we build a bunch of tools. It's tools that allow them to manage relationships within the organization, reach out to influencers at scale. So you might find 100 influencers you want to reach out to. How do you know which ones are the ones that will work with you? And then measure their performance, pay them. Basically all the stuff that is manual that nobody really wants to do, we automate with our platform so that they can then focus on being creative, picking the right influencers based on a really big pool and the data that they need in order to do that, and then just understanding who's performing well and reactivating the ones that
and what their demographic is. I mean, I think in the demo that I saw, which was with Kate Upton, not my choice, but
I think that's the AI.
Yeah, right.
Always ends up there.
It was a beauty brand that was investing in her, but her demographic is males in sports, so it didn't really make sense. But if you had HYPR, you could look at this platform with a jacked up algorithm showing where these people are actually.
And we see that happen all the time because it's common. In the old days, you used to pick a pretty face. Promote your makeup or your clothing next to them, and that would sell. But now every person comes with their own audience, with their own identity, and so it doesn't mean that Kate Upton isn't a great influencer. She's got a huge audience. She has a primarily male audience that's interested in sports, is interested in gaming, and she has demonstrated how well she does when she promotes those types of products. there's probably somebody who's a better option for a brand that's trying to sell makeup. Because they'll have a female
Right.
audience and somebody who talks a lot about how do you put makeup.
Exactly.
And it's not necessarily the obvious choice. It's not necessarily Kim Kardashian. It might be Kim Kardashian's makeup person.
But the beauty of it, no pun intended, is the data that you provide, and that's the most valuable part I see.
And it
in this.
provides confirmation, but also helps with discovery because it gives you a lot of options, and it
Yeah.
gives you the ability to say, okay, I know that I have the audience handled. I'm going to reach the right audience with this person.
Right, exactly. As you continue to grow this company, you're the 19th fastest growing New York City company in the city.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this? I mean, where is the next steps? I mean, we kind of naturally go into this network and collaborations. Some collaborations you're looking for, or you know, that have worked in the past.
HYPR is part of Silvertech, which is the Silverstein family's investment channel. They have a whole program for startups. We were one of the first companies in that program in 2015. We've now entered our 4th year. We rent the space right next to them.
Yep.
And that relationship's been amazing for us. They've opened doors to the tenants in the building. They've opened doors to experts who've helped us with strategy. They've made introductions to potential customers. And that's probably the first time in my professional career where someone was really a mentor in a way that was all-encompassing. It wasn't just, okay, I'll meet with you once a month and I'll give you some advice. It was, come sit in my office. You know, first year I won't even charge anything. You know, just hang out with me. We'll work together on your idea. We'll understand the concept. We'll understand who you need to be to, and I'll open my Rolodex.
And who specifically was helping you out with that?
So we have Silvertech's run by 3 different people. One is Charlie Fetterman, who is a well-known VC. He's got a lot of billion-dollar exits under his belt. And his partner is Larry Wagenberg. And then there's a third partner, Tal Keret, who's the president of Silverstein Properties.
Okay.
So they each carry a different role, but they're all very involved. You see them at least once every 2 or 3 days. And that was a major relationship for us.
Building
I don't think
block.
we'd be around without it.
And how about a lesson learned from one of those 3 individuals that you take with you today that somebody can learn from?
It's funny, you know, the whole strategy for HYPR came in. When I pitched him the first time, I sat in front of Charlie, and he's a very distinguished, very smart guy, but also very nice. But you come in, you're intimidated. You know this guy's had like tons of success, and he ran a company with 10,000 employees before, and things like that. And you present your concept, and you need to appear intelligent and smart. And I remember I pitched him the original concept for HYPR, which was a lot less sophisticated technologically, didn't have a SaaS model behind it. It was more about pay as you use it. And I remember him like asking me to get up at some point. He sat in front of my computer and started changing my presentation. And for like 2 or 3 minutes, I just sat there a little stunned, like, what's going on? What is he doing? And then he looked at me and he said, no, this is good. This means I like what you're doing. But let me ask you a question. Are we building a business that's going to help Gil and his family be very wealthy, or are we concerned with Gil's grandchildren and their grandchildren and their grandchildren? And I was like, the second one. We'll go with the second one. He's like, okay, well, here's some ideas. And the way he presented those ideas was very convincing. But what he did was he said, okay, now you go home, think about this, come back. If you're interested, I'll bring in Tal, and I'll bring in another friend of ours, who at the time was running a family office called Cleaning the Scene Fields. Today is another fund, Robert Mai. And you pitch them. And so the whole weekend I let his ideas sink in. I revised our presentation. It was really not a 180-degree change, but it was like a 45-degree change from what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I come in at 8 a.m. They had a series of meetings at 8:30 and ongoing, so they kind of squeezed me in at the beginning. I walk in and I do my presentation, and I had received 50 to 100 no's. When I was lucky, it wasn't accompanied with a lecture of why this would never work. I got tons of those. And it all fit together. Like 5 minutes, I did the pitch, and then 5 minutes in, Robert asked a question, which I don't remember what it was, and then Tal asked a question, and then they looked at each other and they said, this sounds pretty good. Charlie, what do you think? And Charlie said, well, I kind of helped, think about it, so I like it. And they said, okay, well, you have $1 million, let's go raise another $4 million. And I said, well, I was only raising $1.5 million. And they said, no, you need to raise, what you're building is something big, you need to raise a significant amount.
Yeah.
Within 3 weeks, they had introduced me to investors. We had $5.5 million in that first round, and it was just amazing.
Let's go, yeah.
And they were hands-on. I mean, they came to meetings. These are busy people.
Right.
And it kind of taught me this this idea that when the way relationships start are a very good signal of how they're going to go. And my friends like date someone and it's not really working out, but they still like her, and I say, it's very hard to start off badly and then things will start working out. I find that in a lot of places. Same thing with relationships in business. If things work out smoothly at the beginning, if there's a good connection, then you'll work out all the challenges later. If things aren't working out, that's how that relationship's almost always going to be. And that was a big lesson for me.
That was good. That's gold. I like that one right there.
4 years later, still in the building.
Yeah. We're going to take some Q&A questions, so please start submitting them. So before we get to that, first I encourage everyone to start submitting some questions for Gil, the legend of Gil. But just leadership-wise, you were mentioned as one of the top bosses in technology in, I think, New York City or the country or whatever it may be. And I also talked to a few of your employees who spoke very highly of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, which is great. And I think accessibility was one of the things. But like, what makes a great leader, and why, how do you become such a great leader?
Yeah, I think one of the things that always drove me when I did HYPR was I wanted people to be really excited about coming to work there. I wanted it to be a place where you wake up in the morning and you're like, okay, this is where I'm going to be. Because people always talk about work-life balance, and in our environment, in startups, and a lot of places, there's no real balance. It's more like work, a little life, work. You work in the morning, you hang out with those people, then you might have some time with your family, then you go to sleep, and then you're back at work, and most of your waking hours are at work. So I wanted to be a place, but I couldn't compete with, I'm not going to offer what Google and Facebook can offer. We don't have these machines where you can sleep in the middle of the day and they inject ideas into your veins. Unfortunately, not yet. We'll buy one when we can.
A nap pod. Start with a nap pod.
Yeah, we're in touch with certain governments. So what we really wanted to do was create an environment where people felt like they were really valuable. And the first thing was that we gave everybody equity in the company to ensure that they know that the company's success is their success. The second thing was that we built a really flat organization. There's no such thing as somebody who's in a meeting and their opinion is not expected to be heard. It's not just that you should say, well, I'm an intern, I'm just going to sit here and listen. Everybody say, be a sponge your first 3 weeks. That doesn't happen at HYPR. We're a company that works on social media. If you don't have an opinion, who's going to have an opinion? You're on social media all the time. You're 19, you're 20, you're 22. I'm, 85. I'm not. I don't know how Snapchat works. Like, everything I do does the opposite. So I get the idea, I understand the social networks, but somebody who knows how they work will have a different perspective. And by building that environment where you're genuinely rewarded and encouraged to participate, there's no such thing as like, oh, you said something stupid. It's, your opinion might not end up being accepted, but you're part of that discussion, and if you get negative feedback, it's usually because you're not carrying your weight in those discussions. It's not because you said something that didn't get accepted. And I think what we've built is a community of people that are happy then to bring their friends to come work at HYPR. I think that they're more motivated because the number one, or I would say motivation to me is the number one signal for whether or not somebody would be successful in most jobs. If you're going to be a rocket scientist, you better learn some rocket science. But in most jobs, in marketing, that's teachable. You might not have that much digital marketing experience. We can teach you that. The question is, are you going to really care about the results? Are you going to feel personal are you going to take it personally if one of our competitors says something bad about us? Or are you just going to say, whatever, it's 5 o'clock, I'm going to, and we've all seen those environments, and how do you stay away from that environment? And that's what we tried to do at HYPR. And
you're encouraging collaboration too. I mean, you're thinking about the business outside of the business on the weekends. If you have a say in it, then you have more.
Well, it's yours, right? It's yours. You have an opinion. And plenty of what ends up in our product is not what's in my mind. It started out that way. It was me, my co-founder guy, Tamir, and then our build what I had thought about. We had some input, but he was an R&D person. And today we're in a whole different world where the whole process comes from the customers. It comes through these veins that are the account managers and the salespeople and the marketing people. And what are they hearing from the industry? What do people want to see? And plenty of my ideas get rejected.
I like that. It's solid.
Fortunately.
We're going to go to Mac. Mac's got the microphone. We're going to trust him with the microphone. He's got some questions from the live viewers, so continue to send some questions in. And if you're lucky, Mac will shoot them over to us. But Mac, what do we got? Who's talking on the?
Thank you, Charlie. First question is from Harrison, who's pursuing a bachelor's degree in sports analytics, and he says, Gil, how many influencers are currently on the HYPR platform?
So HYPR looks at influencers a little differently than most platforms. We don't look at follower count as a signal that you're an influencer. The idea is that you might be famous and you might have 10 million followers, but they don't listen to you in subjects. So all in all, we track about 1 billion social accounts to see the conversations they participate in. The system identifies on average about 12 million or so that are influential at least on one topic. Now you could be influential on multiple topics as well. And then they're ranked based on how influential they are within that specific demographic. So 12 million is the simple answer, but it's a living and breathing platform, meaning you could be super influential today and then disappear for 2 months. The system will know to remove you. And one of the biggest challenges in this industry is that most of the databases are kind of, somebody downloaded a list of influencers, they put them each in a category. There's no AI behind it, there's no understanding of, are they influential now? Does their audience still care about them? If I'm trying to sell a product to people who plan on becoming pregnant in the next few months, how do I find not the mommy bloggers, how do I find the ones that are talking to women who want to get pregnant soon?
That's great. Thanks, Harrison. Appreciate that,
Good
Harrison.
question.
What else we got, Mac?
Next question is from Mike, a business development executive. He says, Gil, what are some principles you've learned from the gaming industry that you have applied to HYPR?
So what we've done is, the social gaming industry, which I worked in, is very different than the traditional gaming industry in that the fun in the game is much more focused on being addictive than being fun. Meaning, it's not necessarily, if you think about Farmville and those types of games, it was a lot about getting you to come back, getting that immediate response, but it wasn't about playability to the level that you see in AAA games and things like that. And what we really learned was that you can apply traditional marketing fundamentals anywhere you go, and that's what we did with influencers as well. The first thing you want to look at is, how do I reach my audience? Who is my audience? How do I know who reacts well to my product? Who's going to be a good user to my product? And the second is, what is a good channel to reach those audiences? In our case, it's the influencers, but in that case, it was the social networks. Who are those? The fact that they have 1 million followers doesn't mean that they're a good channel to this audience. There has to be an alignment between the audience you're trying to reach and the audience that actually engages with these influencers. Third is messaging, right? So messaging is obviously very important. In any other form of marketing, you would always test your messaging. Well, what is the messaging that actually works with this audience? What can this influencer, through an authentic channel, deliver to these audience members that's actually going to work for us and get people on our channel? And if you think about it, you would never advertise in a magazine without knowing who reads it, without knowing what the audience is interested in. Well, the same should apply to gaming. Right? You should never advertise in a channel without knowing who watches that channel. And the same applies to influencers. You should never activate an influencer without knowing who does he actually influence, or she.
Like that. As we continue with that, do you see the esports gaming industry? I know we're talking about FaZe Clan, one of the partners of the show, but like esports, I see that rising quite a bit on influencers. Is that a good deal right now to like jump on top of, or like get in early with that type of group, or like what is? Obviously, that demographic is probably 18 to 12-year-old. I don't know, like young kids, right?
So esports is one of the industries that just lends itself well to influencers because it's so easy to put them inside. It's not them recommending, hey, you should play this video game. It's them inside the game. I'm a professional at this game, and come play against me. Come experience come be a part of my clan. Come be part of my team. And those things are things that make it very easy to activate those influencers. There are markets that are much harder to do.
Right.
You know, let's say the real estate market. How do you get an influencer to recommend an office space or an apartment? It's just not as it doesn't mean it won't work, but it's definitely not as naturally flowing. So the esports world is just one of those places where it's a match made in heaven.
Right. That's exciting stuff. As we wrap up, we'll do one more question and then we'll wrap up. But what do we got, Matt? One more?
Yeah, last question is from Crystal, an enterprise account executive, and she asks, Gil, what direction do you see influencer marketing heading 5 years from now?
Good question. Yeah, so I think the industry is broken down into two, and there's a short-term direction and there's a long-term direction. I think short-term, we're talking about different tools that help people manage their relationships one-on-one with influencers and build long-term relationships, manage it within the organization. I think in the long term, we're going to full automation. For influencer marketing to really work, for it to be scalable so anybody can do it, it really needs to go down to the level of I press a button, I tell the computer what audience I want to reach. The computer knows which influencers reach that audience. It reaches out to them. It activates them. It measures their performance. It reactivates the ones that are doing well. And that's where the technology is going. I think the market's not ready for it yet. But judging by other markets, looking at digital marketing, you used to have to call up a website and ask them what traffic they had, how many people, where from. Today it's all fully automated. And I think influencer marketing, others will disagree. There's a big debate about this. I think it'll end up being fully automated because of one thing, which is that the influencers are becoming a commodity. Every single one of them, when you have the data, when you have the understanding, has thousands of replacements that you can choose from. So the computer can reach out to a lot of them, activate the ones that actually want to work with you, and if they don't want to work with you or they're being difficult, they'll just go on to the next one. And that's going to allow automation and scaling to smaller businesses and smaller operations.
Personal ethos.
My favorite is Mario Andretti. He said, if everything feels under control, you must not be driving fast enough. And I think that's such a smart statement for the startup world. If you're just selling and everything's going on fine and investors get your idea and nobody thinks you're crazy, then you're not doing anything innovative. You're not doing anything really unique. And a lot of startup founders will tell me, people look at me like I'm crazy, and I say, well, there's 99% chance you are crazy, but there's also that 1% chance that you're a genius. And every founder believes that they're that 1%. And so if your business isn't running really fast, if it doesn't feel shaky, then you need to do something to change that.
Turn it up.
Mm-hmm.
Turn it up.
Turbo button.
Turbo button. Let's leave off the question for the community that possibly they can engage with you. This is a cheat for the community to engage with Gil. If you want to reach out to him, tag him on the comments to answer this question. But Gil, what's your question for the LinkedIn community?
So now that we've established we're all influential, we're all influenced by people. Think about who do you influence in your life and on what subjects, and what can you do to make their life better that way. So if you're the person who knows about where to eat, or you're the person who knows whether you should buy an Android or an iPhone, or if you're the person who knows who the best doctors are, what can you do? Leverage all the technology that we have, leverage all the communication that we have to create value. Start there. It doesn't have to make you money, but that's going to create a community around you. That's going to help you meet the right people. It's going to help you grow. So my challenge to you is to think, who do you influence? Why do you influence them? And how can you be doing better at that? And also, just reach out even if you don't have an answer to that question. I'm happy to answer anyone.
Solid. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
That's it. We're going to wrap it up, and thanks for watching, guys. See you next week, Thursday, 3 p.m., our new time. And thanks a lot. Nadal is going to hit the music, and we're going to wrap it up. That's it.
I'll be watching.
Yes. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. Libby, good job.